Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. We are so glad to have you, the learner, here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us again.
Because today we are looking at something that might completely reframe how you think about human intelligence. We're getting into an excerpt from chapter 9 of the book, Thus Spoke Confucius Philosophy.
Right, which was written by the philosopher Abdul Jabbar Al-Waily.
Exactly. And the mission for this deep dive is, well, it's to basically break philosophy out of that dusty, boring academic stereotype, right?
Absolutely.
Like, we're framing it as the absolute peak of human intellect, the daring leap that starts exactly where science just hits a massive brick wall.
Yeah, and to ground that excitement, the core thesis of Al-Waily's text is pretty blunt. There is no science without philosophy, and no philosophy without science.
Right.
They feed each other in this continuous, unending loop.
Okay, let's unpack this, because Al-Waily gives us this really specific visual to map out where science ends and philosophy begins, right?
He does, yeah. He uses the analogy of the tree of knowledge.
Right. So the trunk and the branches, those represent the practical sciences. You know, biology, physics, architecture. And the leaves are the observable phenomena.
The things we can actually see and measure.
Exactly. And for the average person, like, we only care about the tree for its shade or its fruit or the wood.
Which is fair. I mean, we need those things to survive.
Right. But Al-Waily points out that philosophy represents the hidden roots of this tree.
Yeah, they're buried in the dirt. You don't see them.
But science, and this is key, science is strictly limited to what you can observe and measure with physical tools, like microscopes or whatever.
Right. So, for example, when science discovers subatomic particles, like photons, it reaches this hard limit.
A brick wall.
Exactly. It can measure the photon. Sure, it can track its speed. But it cannot answer whether that particle is fundamentally, material or spiritual in nature.
Science just throws its hands up.
Yeah, it has to. The tools aren't built for that. And that is exactly where philosophy begins, right? Where science declares it can't go any further.
Okay, so it uses conceptual logic to explore the why and the what's next.
Yes. And furthermore, philosophy actually discovers these concepts first and then hands them over to science to prove later.
Oh, I like that. So, I mean, if human knowledge is like a smartphone.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Right, so science is the hardware we can touch, the glass, the chips, but philosophy is the operating system running quietly in the background, making it all actually work.
That's a great way to put it.
But, and I want to push back a little here, isn't science enough?
What do you mean?
Like, if we can eat the fruit of the tree, why do we need to obsess over the roots buried in the dirt? Who cares about the metaphysical if I can just, use the smartphone?
Well, because without the roots processing those hidden chemical reactions, the metaphysical questions, basically the tree dies.
Oh, just straight up dies.
Yeah. Al-Waily points out that a society that only seeks practical fodder without asking the deeper questions, they just act like mindless beasts.
Wow, mindless beasts.
His words, not mine. But it's true. Without inquiry, we're just consuming for the sake of consuming.
Right, so because philosophy deals with these massive foundational questions, it can't just be some theoretical exercise.
No, not at all.
It requires a specific, extremely rare type of person who actually lives the truth they uncover.
This is a huge point for Al-Waily.
Yeah.
A true philosopher has to embody their philosophy.
Because if it's purely theoretical, or if it gets tainted by passing emotions, it just becomes nonsense.
Exactly. If you only believe in your principles when it's convenient, you aren't a philosopher.
And the ultimate example he gives is Socrates.
Oh, Socrates is the gold standard here.
Right, because he lived this incredibly ascetic life, walking around barefoot, bareheaded.
And there's that famous story with his wife.
Yes, the bucket of water. She was furious with him, right?
Yeah, she was screaming at him and poured a whole bucket of dirty water over his head.
And his reaction is just wild. He calmly tells her, pour out your anger.
Right, because he didn't just write about emotional regulation. He actually lived it, even when he was dripping wet.
And he took it to the ultimate extreme, too. When he was sentenced to death, he actually drank the poison.
The hemlock, yeah.
Yeah, he drank it to respect the rule of law instead of fleeing like so many others did. He proved his entire philosophy through his actions.
Contrast that with the pretenders,
The
fakers.
charlatans?
Exactly. Al-Waily states that charlatans might fool naive people for a little while, but their lies eventually unravel.
Because they don't have the discipline.
Right. True philosophy requires pure ethics and the courage to speak the truth, even if it hurts you personally.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because Al-Waily makes this sharp distinction about Reading philosophy versus creating it.
Yes, the academic versus the philosopher.
Right. It's like if you just memorize philosophy, you're basically a waiter in a restaurant.
A waiter.
Yeah, you aren't the chef cooking the meal, you're just the guy carrying the plate to the table.
That is, yeah, that's incredibly accurate. And what's fascinating here is Al-Waily's strict definition. You are only a philosopher if you invent a new, comprehensive theory.
Wow. So just teaching it.
Just reading or teaching philosophy just makes you an academic, not a philosopher.
That barrier to entry is just insanely high.
It is.
I mean, you need original thought, vast scientific knowledge, and you have to live this pure ethical life.
Which is why true philosophers are statistically almost non-existent.
Right. Al-Waily says the ratio of true philosophers to scientists is less than 1 to a million.
Less than 1 in a million. They are as rare as diamonds among rubble.
That's a beautiful metaphor. But why are they so rare?
Because of where they sit on this. Well, Al-Waily describes it as a hierarchy of minds or perception.
Okay, walk me through this hierarchy.
So at the bottom you have plants.
Plants, okay.
Right, they just perceive basic nutrition.
Right.
Then animals, which
No.
have instincts and movement.
Right.
Then primitive humans, who have basic intellect for survival.
Just getting by in the environment.
Exactly. Above them are social humans, who form communities and societies.
Which is where most of us are at, I assume.
Yeah, mostly. Then, a massive leap up, you have the scientists.
The ones mapping the branches and leaves.
Right. But above the scientists, at the very peak of human logic, are the philosophers.
Because they can see the roots.
Exactly. Now, there is one level above the philosopher, according to Al-Waily.
Oh, what's above the philosopher?
The prophet.
Ah, okay.
Right, someone who receives direct divine revelation. Al-Waily specifically cites the unlettered prophet Muhammad as the ultimate peak of this hierarchy.
Right, because revelation bypasses the need for the human logic part.
Exactly. But looking at the philosophers, because their vision sees so far beyond the tangible world into the metaphysical, they usually seem completely eccentric to everyone else.
Or even crazy.
Oh, absolutely. They get accused of madness, heresy, delusion, all the time.
It's like someone with 20/20 vision trying to describe the stars to a society of people who are completely nearsighted.
Yeah.
Of course they're going to call you crazy. They literally can't see what you're seeing.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And the philosopher doesn't mind looking foolish to the masses, because their goal is eternal truth.
Not just temporary social approval.
Right. They know that having a partial, flawed answer to these massive questions of existence is infinitely better than just refusing to ask the questions at all.
And history proves them right. I mean, one philosopher can shape centuries.
Oh, easily.
Like Aristotle shaped Alexander the Great.
Plato shaped the French revolutionaries, like
Yeah.
Voltaire and Rousseau.
And even Karl Marx.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These ideas echo for thousands of years.
But that brings up a huge contradiction. If philosophers are these rare, ultra-perceptive geniuses seeking the ultimate truth,
Yeah.
why do they constantly disagree with each other?
That is the big question.
Right. Like, if they all have 20/20 vision, shouldn't they all see the same stars?
Well, Al-Waily argues that disagreement among philosophers isn't a failure at all. It's actually a necessity.
A necessity. How?
Because differences arise from different eras, different cultures, and just differently wired minds. The truth is too massive for one perspective.
Oh, okay.
He uses this great analogy of mixing colors.
Mixing colors.
Yeah, different philosophies blend together to create brilliant new shades of thought. If everyone agreed, we'd just have a monochrome world.
That makes a lot of sense.
He even quotes the Prophet Muhammad on this, saying, "The difference of my nation is a mercy."
A mercy. Wow. So disagreement isn't a weapon, it's a tool.
Exactly. Which is why Al-Waily demands open-mindedness from us. We have to respect other philosophies, debate them politely with logic, not emotion, and most importantly, be willing to admit when we are wrong.
Oh, that's the hardest part.
It is. But sticking to a wrong opinion, just out of pure stubbornness, is the biggest barrier to truth.
But still, Al-Waily grounds all this high-minded thinking in actual reality, right? The whole realism versus idealism debate.
Yes, he is very practical about this. A philosopher cannot neglect the physical world.
Right, because society needs the mechanic and the merchant just as much as it needs the poet and the philosopher.
We need the branches just as much as the roots.
But let me ask you this. So what does this all mean for you and me?
For the everyday person.
Yeah, for the learner listening right now. If even the greatest geniuses of all time disagree, and they're constantly tweaking their theories over centuries, doesn't that make the search for truth feel a bit hopeless?
I get why it feels that way, but no, it's not hopeless at all. It's a collaborative evolution.
Collaborative evolution.
Yeah. The friction of all these different ideas clashing together is exactly what sparks new, stronger theories.
Like sharpening a blade.
Precisely. The goal isn't to just find one rigid final answer and stop thinking. The goal is to continually refine our understanding of the universe.
Okay, that is incredibly empowering, actually.
It really is.
So just to summarize this entire journey we've been on today, we started down in the hidden roots of the tree of knowledge.
Exploring where science hits its limits.
Right. And then we looked at Socrates, literally getting a bucket of dirty water poured on his head to prove a point about emotional control.
A true philosopher in action.
Exactly. And we realized that these true philosophers are one in a million visionaries. They are the rare few brave enough to ask why and then actually live by the answers they find.
And even though they disagree, that friction just creates better understanding.
Right. And I think the key for you, the listener, is that you don't have to be a Socrates to apply this.
No, definitely not.
You don't have to drink poison or walk around barefoot. You just need to ensure that your everyday actions, the branches and leaves of your life, are connected to a deeper purpose, the roots.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And to kind of leave you with something to chew on, a final thought to ponder entirely on your own,
Yeah.
let's build on Al-Wiley's concept of actually living your philosophy.
Oh, I like where this is going.
We all have a philosophy, whether we've written it down in a book or not. So look closely at the choices you made this past week. Not the things you said you believe, but the things you actually did.
The raw data of your actions.
Exactly. If a complete stranger observed only your actions over the last 7 days, what would they assume your foundational philosophy is?
Oof, that's a heavy question.
And more importantly, are you okay with that answer?
Man, that is a mirror we all need to look into. Thank you so much for exploring this with us today. To the learner, keep asking the big questions, keep checking your roots, and we will see you on the next deep dive.